Howdy y'all. Today we're looking at an off-meta army list that we're going to do. This one is going to be based on the Firelance Temple-host. As you see it here, it's going to be a lot of Saurus Knights. That's what our list is going to focus on. If you are bringing a Firelance Temple-host battalion, your army is off-meta. Let's just say that from the start. But let's see what we can do with this. How can we make this into a fun list? It is going to focus a lot on all of the mounted units that we have. That's what's going to be our main focus. So, since we're going to have a lot of cavalry this time, I feel like I need to get into some character here. Much better. Give me a good yeehaw in the comments if you if you think the Knights can make a good list. All right. So this battalion here, what we're going to run is one Scar Veteran. Now, you can see it's bolded there. Luckily, the core book tells us that for battalion's sake, you can take a hero that has that name there as long as the mount is subtexted. And so, luckily, the Scar Veteran on Carnosaur fits that description. So that's what we're going to focus on as a Scar Veteran on Carnosaur to go into our Saurus Knights battalion here. What this does is this does give us +3 to the run and charge rolls as long as you're wholly within 18 of that Scar Veteran. So it's going to make our Saurus Knights a little bit quicker. So that's what we're going to focus on for this list. And let's see what we can make out of it. They are going to go into Coalesced, which is not this screen. But Coalesced, it will give you the -1 to damage characteristics when somebody's attacking you. So it doesn't count for mortals, but for everything else. So it makes our army pretty durable. Also, you can't modify bravery, which kind of hurts sometimes. As I've played it more and more, it kind of hurts more often than it helps. But if you run into like some kind of bravery bomb list, then that won't affect you. But unfortunately, your horde bonuses don't count in Coalesced. It is going to go into the Koatl's Claw, and what that's going to help is it's going to give us +1 for any charging Saurus units. And since we've got a nice +3 to our charge for our Saurus Knights, this is also going to help them a lot. They do a lot better on the charge. So you see here the Savagery Incarnate, we do get +1 to hit rolls for our Saurus units when they charge. If they don't charge, we can just use that command ability to give them a +1 to their hit. Our command traits is Dominant Predator. This is if you have a Saurus General, and you roll a dice each time that General issues a command point, and you get, on a 4-up, you get a command point back. This is basically the Aether Quartz Brooch, rest in peace, but actually better, since it's on a 4-up, and this army uses a lot of command points, so hopefully we can roll that a lot and get them back. The Artefact of Power, Eviscerating Blade. Pick one of the bear's melee weapons on an unmodified hit roll for an attack made with that weapon is 6 and inflicts 2 mortal wounds in addition to any normal damage. So this will pair really well with our Scar Veteran, who his main weapon already explodes on 6s, and his command trait gives us another explosion on a 6, and now we'll get 2 mortals on a 6. So if you take the War Spear for him, he has a lot of attacks. Hopefully that'll just kind of chain. Unfortunately, this won't stack on all the extra attacks, but if you do roll a 6, you get lots of benefits from it. So what we're going to focus on is the Saurus Knights. And it may not be the best model in our range. It might be one of the worst models in our range. There's quite a few that are probably vying for that title. But the Saurus Knights, you've probably got some just hanging around, ready to be built. If you've bought a couple start collecting boxes like I have, you'll end up with quite a few. 8 come in each box for some reason. And so I think at this point, I've got somewhere in the range of about 30 of these guys, I guess, just from various things that I bought. So you've probably got some of these guys. Let's see how they do. You're always going to run them with War Spears because even though they hit a little bit worse, you have plenty of access to +1s to their hits, and the damage will be 2. So you do get 2 attacks for each one of those, and on the charge, they will be damaged 2. You also get 2 different jaw attacks that have 3 total attacks. But we also, in Coalesced, we get to add 1 to all our jaw attacks. And so at this point, if you're in Coalesced, you're going to have you're going to have 7 attacks per model. It's quite a few attacks. Unfortunately, they all have different profiles. So get good at rolling these different profiles. But each model will have quite a few attacks. We're gonna be putting them in units of 10. And so if you could all get them in, that's going to be 70 attacks that we're going to be putting out with a unit of 10. It's quite a few. And we have ways to buff those up, which we'll look at. So there's our Saurus Knight. Unfortunately, they don't have any rend, so this list will really suffer versus, like OBR or, even Stormcast. Things that have really good armor, this list might suffer against, but we're not here for the competitive list building. We're here for the fun list building, at least in this video. So let's look at our list here, what we've got. So we're starting off with our general as the Saurus Scar Veteran on Carnosaur, and this is the one that goes in the battalion. We're giving him the command trait that gives us back the command points when we spend them on a 4-up, and so he's going to be passing out command points like candy. He has a War Spear, so he has those 6 attacks, and Eviscerating Blade, so hopefully we can stack those 6s into a bunch of extra bonuses there. We're going to take another Saurus Scar Veteran on Carnosaur. These guys are only 210 points. They're pretty cheap for a monster. They've got 12 wounds. They're going to be -1 damage in Coalesced. They're going to have an extra jaw attack. So these guys are pretty good for their price point. 210 points for a big monster that can do some damage. I like it. We're also going to include a Saurus Oldblood on Carnosaur. He's basically the same profile. He has a shooting attack that will do a little bit of damage every once in a while. Other than that, pretty much the same. But his command ability adds +1 to hit, which in a lot of Saurus lists, this is really good. In Koatl's Claw, I've found it's not very useful on Knights, because Knights, if we look back at their profile here, they're going to have 3 of the snapping jaw attacks when we get them in Coalesced, and they're already going to be +1 on the charge, so they're going to be at 2s. And so if you're giving them another +1 from the Oldblood, you're wasting basically half their attacks, because you can't, obviously a 1 is always going to fail, and so you can't go lower than a 2. And so I don't like the Oldblood as much on Knights as I do the Scar Veteran. I think the Scar Veteran was kind of made for these guys. You'll get lots of explosions on 6s when you have 7 attacks per model. So we have 2 Scar Veterans on Carnosaur, a Saurus Oldblood on Carnosaur, and then here's where we're having some fun. So normally this is where you might see a Slon or Croak or one of the support heroes. No. We got to go mounted, okay? So we need something that's riding something else, and so that's why we've got the Skink Oracle on Troglodon. This guy just recently had to drop in points. He's down to 220. And he's basically a Slon that's just not quite as good, but has a little bit more utility, I think. The Slon has a lot more spell slots, so you can cast 3 spells with the Slon, 4 with Croak. Croak, obviously we know about Croak. We've heard all the gnashing of teeth on Croak's point cost. But the Skink Oracle, he has the same spell, the same pluses to his casting, unbinding, dispelling, and he can take the same Constellation that gives him another +1. And so you have the same board-wide mortal output from the Skink Oracle on Troglodon that you do from a Slon or Croak, and you can get him up to +2 with the Constellation. And he still has board-wide unbinds. So he only has 1, though. That's the problem. You only have 1. So with him, you're going to be casting that board-wide mortals every time, and you should be at, +1 or +2, depending on what you do with the Constellation. If you need that Constellation for something else, for one of your big monsters or for running charge, you can use that there. But here's some mortal ranged output, and he's going to be pretty tough. So we're giving him Cloak of Feathers, which means he's -1 to hit, which that, if you were just taking that on its own, hey, that's a great artifact. No, we're going to also give him +4 to move. So now he's a 14-inch moving monster, which is good. And then we're going to give him Flight. So now he's a flying 14-inch move monster, -1 to hit, and he's healing D3 per turn, and he's taking -1 to damage against him. So he should be fairly tanky, as much as any of our monsters are here. That Cloak of Feathers is a great artifact. It can only go on something with Skink keyword, unfortunately. But that makes him really good. I like that on him, especially if we're going all mounted heroes here. So let's scroll down. Let's see what we're going to look at for our battle line options and our units. We're taking 3 units of 10 Saurus Knights each. Of course, we're giving them lances. This will fill out our battalion. And 10 Saurus Knights has a pretty good footprint. It's not so big that you can't get them into a big target. But it's also big enough that you can, if you slide them sideways, you can actually screen out, block a ton of board space with them. But if you turn them, nose to tail, you can get quite a few of them in. So I think 10 is about the right number. At 15, they start to get a little unwieldy and hard to use. 5 is a good unit for like MSU stuff, but I think 10 is just about the right number. And you're gonna be able to send one of these guys with each of those big monsters if you want to. You definitely want to keep them around the general who's in the battalion at first, so they can get a little bit extra range. We are cheating here. We are taking a unit of Saurus Warriors. I'll take off my hat to talk about them for a second. So we are taking a unit of Saurus Warriors, 40 of them. They're going to be, you've got to get some bodies in this list because we have so many Saurus Knights here. So we do need a unit of Saurus Warriors. I'm envisioning hanging them with the Oldblood because they will benefit a lot more from the Oldblood's command ability, which is that +1 to hit. And so I would stick them with that Saurus Oldblood on Carnosaur. So we got quite a few bodies. We, of course, are taking the Firelance Temple-host, and I'm taking an extra command point in this list for a clean 2,000 points, 146 wounds for this list. So we've got some big monsters. We've got 3 units of Saurus Knights and a big block of Saurus Warriors to fill out our Firelance list. Now this comes in at 5 drops, so it's pretty low drop, comparatively. You'll probably beat out most people on drops unless they're just really trying hard to get the drops. So in this list, you're probably going to want other people to go first. You can take a hit because you've got a lot of big monsters. You don't have any small guys that are going to get sniped. You have, these guys can take a hit in melee because they're -1 to hit. Everything in this army is 4 up to save, which is nice. So you really don't have much of an alpha strike potential. Well, you don't have any alpha strike potential in this list. So really letting somebody else go first so you can line up your long +3 charges from these Saurus Knights is a good idea. They're not particularly fast, the Saurus Knights. They only move 8, but with that +3 to charge, and you can flip the Constellation to +1 so that they're at a +4 to charge, and you can make some good charges and get everybody in. So I think that's about it. One variant I was playing with, if you want to abandon the all-mounted list, which that's the point of this exercise, you can fit in a Slon in there, and I kind of like him with this Atixi Grubs. It lets him reroll a hit, reroll a cast or a dispel. Basically the same setup, but then you're adding some guard to protect him, and then some bound endless spells. Probably Gymnids and Purple Sun, because those two are amazing to have bound and floating around the battlefield. So kind of the same thing, 5 drops, but you're switching out your horde of warriors for some guard and a Slon. So I do like the all-mounted list. I may try to field this on the table at some point and see how it goes. All right, that's our off-meta list for today. So y'all have a good one.